How you doing, mate? You all right?
Okay,
Yeah, not too bad, you?
away you go.
Right.
I'll pop back in a few minutes.
Okay,
Not
there
bad,
you
mate.
go.
Not bad at all.
All good. I'll just start it in 3, 2, actually, I'll take the mask off. Park Class Sport here with boxing promoter Dave Caldwell, who's trained the likes of Kell Brook, Tony Bellew and Derek Chisora. We're just going to be looking at what you're up to now, how boxing is coping in the second lockdown, and of course, maybe a little preview to Crawford versus Kell Brook on the 14th of November. How are you doing, Dave, first of all?
I'm not too bad, thanks, mate. I'm not too bad. Managing to work with Jordan Gill, Hopi Price, and Lerone Richards in the gym. So we're getting our day-to-day work done there. Then I'm still managing to coach my little boy football at home. Obviously, football, grassroots football is being stopped, so he's a bit heartbroken over that. So it's just a case of keeping things moving the best you can, and then, you know, looking after myself, training myself as well. So yeah, you're treading water, but at least you're not going backwards and you're not stood still.
Yeah. I understand you've got your own, is it a boxing gym or your own kind of promotion called Caldwell Boxing? How's that faring at the moment?
I'm a boxing coach and manager, so I have fighters that are contracted to me, management wise, develop the careers, build the careers, etc. And then I coach fighters in my gym as well. So yeah, so it's all going well.
Yeah. You mentioned some of the names I was actually going to ask you about. The first one, obviously, Jordan Gill. I had Hopi Price and Lerone Richards as well. If you could just tell us a bit about them and what they're up to at the moment with you.
So with Lerone, we're just waiting for announcements on what's going to happen with him next. Is he's been preparing for a fight that keeps, the dates we're waiting on being announced, kept getting put back. So that should be in the next few days. We should have some finalization about what's happening with his career moving forward. Jordan Gill, fantastic talent, coming off for a big win against Reece Bellotti on the fight camp. He was the first fight behind closed doors in this country on Sky TV. So that was a big fight that he won. He came through. He will probably fight at the end of January. Should be a big fight for him. We're just waiting on Eddie Hearn to confirm that. And Hopi Price, a phenomenal talent. He's, as far as prospects coming through, he's definitely up there with the very, very best. Olympic junior gold medalist, world championship silver, where he got robbed in the final, European champion twice, very, very good fighter as an amateur, turned over, he's 3-0 as a pro. He should be out before the end of the year. We're just waiting on confirmation.
Yeah, obviously, how are your fighters coping with what's going on in the world? Obviously, very little of a crowd allowed in boxing at the moment.
Yeah.
How's that affecting the fights that are going on?
Well, both Jordan and Hopi have fought behind closed doors on the Fight Camp series in Eddie's back garden. So they've both experienced that feeling and that lack of atmosphere as such. But to be fair, Matchroom did a fantastic job making it look like a big event. So it's still, it's still up for it as such. But when the bell goes, to understand it, a ring's a ring, and that's what I get into the heads that, it doesn't matter where it is. We're boxing in an empty arena at 5:30 first on, and there's no crowd there basically. So, it is what it is. They both said that once that bell went, there was no effect on them whatsoever. The only thing that we kind of it was a little bit weird was when you win, normally you crowd and everything, you celebrate, when you're in a big fight. There is none of that because there is no crowd, so you don't even really get to celebrate properly. I watched it from the outside. I was there when Savannah Marshall won her world title the other night at Wembley, the SSE Arena at Wembley. And she's just won a world title, and there's nobody there to celebrate with her. It's a bit muted.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a strange sort of feeling, especially when fighters dream about becoming champions, dream about that moment when you know, then the MC says I'm the new, and you celebrate with your crowd, with your family, your friends. And when that's taken away, that feeling is kind of like dulled a little bit. But still, listen, we're still moving, we're still having shows being put on, and that's, you know, we're grateful for that.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Do you kind of fear in the long run that all of this going on will affect the interest of young people wanting to get into boxing?
Not just boxing, sport. When you lock down kids, so I'm away from my professional job. I'm a grassroots football coach.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I've trained my son's team. This is our 4th season, and so I can speak from experience. So
Yeah.
we're now currently under 10s. So you're talking 9-year-old boys. After the first lockdown, my boys are very vocal, very interactive with each other on the pitch, always speaking, saying where to, you know, instructing, you know, they're very good mindsets. They're not introverted. They went into lockdown, and 3 of them, parents were saying to me about how they struggled during lockdown because they got no motivation. All they were doing were playing on their Xboxes and kind of like falling into that Fortnite trap. And they actually said Fortnite, you know, they were going to get into the game Fortnite. And so when we came back to football training, when lockdown was lifted and grassroots was allowed again, we saw a massive difference. It was like this group of kids didn't know each other, and you're just putting these kids in for the first training session together. There was no interaction, you know. A couple of them were almost like fearful of getting close to each other. It's taken the social aspect, the social skills away from these kids. So it took us a few weeks to get them back into it. Now we were back flying again, matches, everything back to normal. And lockdown's here again. And grassroots football's been stopped again. And now the other thing that we noticed, not just us, when we were talking to other coaches of other teams when we're playing them, and you talk, they found a lot of their players have come back after lockdown having put on a lot of weight. And I'm not talking about a little bit of puppy fat, I'm talking about a lot of fat, which is not healthy for kids. Now, it's all right saying, oh, yeah, but parents shouldn't do that. But not all parents are educated. And not all parents have got enough knowledge and, you know, determination in their own sort of lives to be able to make sure that kids are eating healthy, kids are exercising, because if they're not that kind of person themselves, kids tend to follow suit. So we did see a big difference in fitness levels of other teams of their kids when they come back, you know, and that's something that, again, I worry about. Now they've got through that, they've come back, and now you're asking these little brains and these little minds to comprehend that another lockdown's come on its way, not to get disheartened about it and to stay positive, stay focused on what you're doing. Some kids can do that. My little boy is very well driven, you know, but he's surrounded by influencers like myself, like your Jordan Gills, your Hopey Price, Lerone Richards. He's surrounded by people like that of the same sort of mindsets. Not all kids have got that, you know, fortunate advantage. So we will lose a lot of kids to sport, you know, from sport, because they don't come back. You know, it's very, very, we're competing a lot, whatever sport it is. You're competing with about 200 TV channels. You're competing with Xbox, PlayStation, all these games. You're competing with iPads, with phones, you know, smartphones. You're competing with a lot of things that are easier, but more addictive for small minds to be able to lock onto. So we're competing with that. Now, when you take away our chance of providing this stimulus, physical stimulus for these kids, you take that away, then it's so much easier for them to fall into that trap. And once they fall into that trap, it's very, very hard to get them out of it, get them motivated to do something that is difficult. To learn to play football is difficult. To become an amateur boxer is difficult. Everything requires sacrifice. It requires physical punishment, really, whether you're running on a pitch and having to run when you're tired, you know, or whatever, you know. Boxing in a gym is very, very difficult. Dancing, whatever pastime it is that's physical, is demanding. So therefore, it's always going to be easier to sit on your backside, get a remote control out, or go swipe about on an iPad. So we're competing with things like that are easier for their minds. So when we get locked down, but yet they're still allowed to go to school and things like that. That's what grates on my mind a little bit.
Yeah. Just on the back of that as well, I've seen you've been quite, not too vocal, but you've put it out there on Twitter about the Marcus Rashford, his campaign with the government and stuff. Could you just touch on a little bit about that?
I just think it's fantastic what he's done.
Yeah.
But I think it's an embarrassment that a bunch of people that are running our country and that make those decisions are having to do a U-turn. Not just somebody's come up with the idea, oh, that's a good idea, yeah, we'll go with that. Have actually knocked it back and then had to go to a U-turn to then say, no, let's do this. Why is it taking a 23-year-old footballer to make this something that should just be taken for granted, you know? And I see on Twitter when people say it's not the government's job to provide, you know, food for these kids, it's the parents' job. And yes, that's because majority of parents out there are good parents that will do whatever they can to feed the kids. But there are parents out there, and I came from a tough background, so I understand this, that there are parents out there that will put drink, will put cigarettes, will put, these days, drugs. They will put these things in front of the child and in front of feeding the child correctly. It's not just a case of, oh, here's a £5, go down at Chippy and get yourself some fish and chips, right? It's feeding your kids correctly. So when people are saying, oh, it's not our job, it's not, yeah, but it's not the child's fault. You know, the child's in a position where he's relying, or she's relying on the parents. And if the parents aren't that minded, then the child needs the help. And that's what Rashford's doing. And that's what this whole thing is. And this is why it should be done, is because we're not looking to help the parents of you know, that are drinking and doing this instead, or, you know, that don't particularly care for the kids. We're there to help the kids. It's not their fault. So you can say all you want about whose responsibility it is, but ultimately it's the kids that are suffering regardless of whose responsibility it is. So, you know, for me, I think it's fantastic what he's done. I think he, you know, for somebody at that level who has that reach, to actually use that reach in such a manner, you know, I think it's amazing. And it's a credit. It's not just a credit to football. It's not just a credit to the UK. It's a credit to the human race, basically. You know, if there were more people like that, and more people that were looking to push like that, and if there were more governments that actually come up with those ideas themselves, then things like, you know, child poverty and things like, you know, even homelessness and things, they would kind of be eradicated, you know, because there is a lot of money out there. It's just what is it being spent on? A lot of stuff is not being, you know, a lot of stuff's being spent on crap and stuff that doesn't need to be spent on, you know. Billions and billions go on certain things that you think, well, you look at in proportion how much is being spent on this. Well, it's like, what, where, you know? It's you can go on all day about it, but you know, I think it's fantastic what he's done.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. Would you say boxing, not necessarily sport as a whole, but just boxing, could help kids at this time?
Oh, 100%. But it's so with this at this time, amateur boxing clubs have been shut down, so we can't help them.
Yeah.
So my thing is, when I was a kid, I was bullied at school, and I'd go home and my mother would beat me, and I was terrified of being at home. Right, my time when I used to go to the boxing gym, that's my time away from the bullies.
Yeah.
That's my time away from. I didn't have friends at school. I had friends in the gym. They're my friends. They're who I get to see. They're your Johnny Nelsons and your Bomber Grahams and people like that in the gym that I'm watching train at the time. They're my idols, but also they're my friends because I see them every day and we speak. So for a kid like that that's got no self-esteem, and a kid like that that's having problems at home and things like that, that's their sanctuary. That's where they can feel almost like safe. Now, when you lock down gyms, you lock down grassroots football and things like that, but yet they're still allowed to go to school. So if you're a kid like ours, if you're going to school right now and you get bullied at school, then you're coming home right now and you have a bad childhood at home with your parents, right? Where is your escape? You've got no escape.
Yeah.
Because for the whole 24 hours of the clock, you're in a state of of fear. You know, I would be fearful of going to school. I would be fearful of walking in between classes. I'd be at home every time the steps would go at home. I'd be fearful of that, thinking, what have I done? Trying to think in my head, have I cleaned house properly? Have I done this? What have I done? Because I'm thinking I'm gonna get beat up. When I go to the gym, I've got no fear. That's gone. So that 2 hours or whatever it is, it gives me a release. Now, what I'm saying is, with these kids that are in similar sort of situations now, so if you're a kid that goes to school and gets bullied, still gets bullied, lockdown or not, you're at school, you're getting bullied. You come home, you have a bad childhood at home. You can't go and play football for an hour. You can't go to a boxing gym for an hour. You can't go dancing. You can't do whatever it is you take up as your little release, your pastime. You cannot do. You're stuck in that house. You're stuck in that environment. That is what's going to affect a lot of kids.
I completely agree with what you're saying. I think there's a lot to be done, and I do think sport and boxing as a whole could fill this void at the time. But Dave,
100%.
100%. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot from Jordan Gill, Opie Price, and Lavon Richards in the future.
No worries, mate. Thanks a lot. Thanks for
Thank you.
Dave, that's fantastic, mate. Really appreciate your time.
You've been standing there for like.
All right for that.
Cracking, mate. Everything else going well?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Like I said, I'm just fed up of treading water. I want to be moving. There's so many things. I've bought a franchise for. Have you ever heard of Mini Kicks? Or Kicks, it's called. It's a football school. It's Team Orange basically. They teach kids from I think it's 18 months to 10 years old, the fun side of football, but also the development side of football. Yeah. So I bought one of those franchises up in Hyde in Manchester.
Right.
So I bought that like literally a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to set it up and look to launch in January.
Brilliant.
But it's kind of like you're restricted because of all this lockdown and everything. So there's things I want to be doing, and I want to be getting moving. Do you know what I mean? But we'll get there hopefully.
I'm sure.
What about you? How's things with you?
All good, mate. All good. So I do a bit of the lecturing now in sports journalism, and still do a bit of football stuff as well. So a good balance, mate.
Good.
Top man. Right, Dave, great to catch up with you. Maybe when you start the football academy, we'll get back onto you again.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Good man. All right, cheers, Dave. All the best, pal. Thanks for your time. See you, mate.
No worries, mate. Bye.